Welcome to another edition of Illegitimate Intellectuals. It's your girl, Miss KK, and today I am joined by a longtime friend, and we're talking about relationships specifically to brown and black people. Mm-hmm. So, everybody get comfortable, get your coffee, get your tea with cream, and your water. And let's chop it up. Today, I am joined by a longtime friend and also an illustrious author. He's a main contributor and co-founder of opinionatedmail.com, and he's authored quite a bit of very intelligent articles and very interesting information. He's also the author of 2 books. Please welcome my good friend, CoRtOnIo.
Thank you. Much appreciated for the love. Yeah, so I have written 2 books, self-published. One is a poetry book. It's called Poetic Food for the Mind, Body, and Soul. The other one is a novel. It's called Fool Me Once, Shame on You. Fool Me Twice, Shame on Me. Both of them can be found on barnesandnobles.com. They can also be found on amazon.com. And you can also reach out to me via Instagram in my DM at CoRtOnIo5359. I always have extra books on deck. So if you'd like those to be hand brought to you, we can facilitate that as well. But thank you, Ms. KK, for having me on your show. I'm looking forward to a very, very delightful conversation this afternoon.
It's interesting because today's conversation or topic is or somewhat related to the content in your novel. So one of the things that is new for me, because I'm in my 30s, and I have found that like Netflix and chill is not just a phrase, it's actually the thing that people really do. Mm-hmm. And to me, that's amusing and kind of sad that we're settling for
cliches and catchphrases.
Right. So, and this is something that we've often spoken about over the years of our friendship. Mm-hmm. How do you think we've gotten to Netflix and chill?
I think times have changed. I think it's a generational thing, because I even talk to a lot of young kids that I mentor, and, a lot of them tell me about how they manage to snag members of the opposite sex. And a lot of it is through, DMing, through Instagram, Netflix and chill, and texting, and, can you slide through? And it's just really, really unconventional. But I think a lot of it, too, is because women, they allow it. Because I remember even coming up in my teens, you had to put in work to get a girlfriend or even get a girl's interest.
It's called game.
Yeah.
It's called game.
You really did. I mean, you had to look the part, dress the part. You had to be able to know how to treat girls nice, even though some of them still went for some of the bad boys. But for the most part, you had to come correct.
Right.
Now, from what I see, it's like any dude could get a female and just, they don't have to do much at all. Like there's no such thing as calling, taking out. It's always like, we meet up at my crib, we smoke, we drink, and then we do what it do, and then that's it.
Well, to your point, you started it off by saying you think it's like a generational thing, right?
I think it is.
So it's not necessarily so much that the women themselves allow it so much as it is a norm for a certain age group, right? And also because in our communities, especially, there is a very small age gap sometimes between parents and children that you have parents kind of engaging in the same type of behavior.
It's crazy, yeah.
And it's unusual, like you said, because to me, I'm like an 85-year-old lady when it comes to technology. I have floor model television sets in my house, and I refuse upgrades until my phone absolutely can't function anymore.
I'm the same way.
And don't get me wrong, I used social media, but in its very infantile stages, like Black Planet.
I was there.
I had a Black Planet Play
I was
page.
I think it's still up. I wouldn't even know what it is, but
I know,
think it's
right?
somewhere floating in outer space.
It is
somewhere.
in cyberspace someplace. And there was like Mocha Lounge or Mocha Cafe, something
They
like
used to have
that.
College Club. They used to have. I never had a MySpace.
I did have a MySpace.
I never had a MySpace. And there was another one. It was around the time of MySpace. It'll probably hit me later in this conversation.
Right.
But it's funny you mentioned technology and phones because I remember back in 2008, I got a Razor, had that for 2 years. Then in 2010, I upgraded to a BlackBerry. So my students used to clown me like, yo, hold up, you still got a BlackBerry? They would legit clown me. And mind you, they have their, at the time, Samsungs were just coming out and Sidekicks were already obsolete.
It's crazy that we were adults during these times because technology has
It's changed so much.
grown in leaps and bounds so quickly to the point where certain phone models skip over because their technology has outpaced their models for the phone.
Yep.
So it's interesting you talk about the Sidekick, Sky Pagers and stuff like we were around for all of those things. But you were saying that your students were clowning because of the BlackBerry.
So I had the BlackBerry from 2010 to 2014. And I would tell them, listen, it works. I can text.
I can make phone calls
with
it.
I can go on the internet. I even had the VZ Navigator on there before. This is before Waze came out. So I feel like as long as it works, it's fine. Like even now, I have a Samsung. I have an S10. But the only reason why I've gotten that far is because every 2 years they require an upgrade. And I got a really good deal on it. So fine. But otherwise, I'll keep the same phone 2 or 3 years. It's not even a problem. But with people now, I knew people say from 4 years ago had like the iPhone 6. Now they're already at the new iPhone. I don't even know what it is. I don't know anymore. But, I just sit there and say it's just crazy how technology and social media has made us very unsocial.
And that's the irony in it is that it's labeled a misnomer in some ways because you're being social in a virtual reality. Yeah. You're not being social in real life.
Person to person, you're not.
And that has diminished our ability to really connect and communicate properly with one another. Because ultimately what you want in a relationship, I don't care what age you are, is intimacy.
Right.
And that is not necessarily physical intimacy, but you want the ability to be in relationship with someone that knows you really well.
That gets you.
That understands you.
And that's the key. And I think that's why a lot of relationships fail. Now, people look at it as a physical thing or whether the attraction's there. If you think about it, if you're with a woman and she's good looking enough, quote unquote, but if she gets you, she gets your quirks, your personality, she understands you, she doesn't judge you or judge people who are similar to you, it all just falls together. But I think that right there is the key. I remember years back when I was in a previous relationship, we went to premarital counseling. And I remember the counselor saying, he said, the key is you have to be able to get each other. And I said to myself, that makes sense. Like
in that moment, even though you had been in relationship with the person,
yes,
someone else telling you like they had to get you.
And I had that voila moment in my head. I said, that's what it is. She doesn't get me. Because with me, I'm the kind of person, I have a very sarcastic, dry, and morbid, at times perverted sense of humor. Like I laugh at the
to
dumbest
say the
stuff.
least.
Yeah, I laugh at almost any and everything. And I feel like, you shouldn't judge like, oh, well, you find that funny, or why would you laugh at that? I'm like, that's me.
I wouldn't say you shouldn't judge, but if you are judging, then that's something that is terms for leaving and going separate ways.
Yeah.
Because people are entitled to have the sense of humor,
of course,
that they have or whatever. And that's what makes us unique. That's what makes us all individuals. But again, at the end of the day, the person that you choose to spend the most time with, the person that you want to spend the rest of your life with, should be someone that understands the big facets of your character.
And interestingly enough, when I talk to a lot of men, we talk about relationships. There was this one guy, he was an older guy. He said to me, he said, all I want is a chick who's cool and gives me some. That's it. That's all I ask for. I'm simple. And I said, you make a lot of sense But then you have a lot of women too who are so superficial when it comes to relationships. You know, they want a guy who has a certain amount of degrees, a 6-figure income. They want this, that, and a third. And same thing with guys with women. Mm-hmm. But I say to myself, what about the intangibles? And they look at me like I have 10 heads. I said, there's intangibles.
We're talking about the current dating trends, which are basically virtual.
Yeah.
Which only focuses on the more shallow aspects. And because it is virtual, you don't have to necessarily tell the truth. No, so if you want a 6-figure man,
you can just say so.
And if you want a brother that's 6 feet tall,
you can just say so. I'm 6'3", 210. I work out every day. I got a PhD, you know, like it,
all of that's there.
Yeah.
And if you want a very curvaceous milk chocolate sister with long silky hair, there are filters for that.
And you know what's crazy too? It's you literally can play a character.
Yes.
On dating websites.
That's what an avatar is.
And you can drag it out. Like I was watching the show 90 Day Fiancé. I don't like reality show, but I'm kind of hooked on to that one. and there's an episode where there's a guy and he talks to this nice looking sister. She's like in her 50s. And he said what his name was. He said he's from England, and he put this picture of himself of a dude who's pretty sculpted. Mm-hmm. And she fell in love with that. And they were going back and forth, texting and instant messaging for months.
To that point, I'm like you. I used to really love like the real hood rat reality TV, like the Flavor of Love. I was all into that. But outside of that, I don't really dig it. But I like a similar show, which is Catfished. I love that. And
I watched that show several years ago. Yes.
The reason why I like it is because it happened to me. Wow. I was catfished. So
do tell.
That's for a whole other episode.
Okay.
Because it was years. It was a long time that this person pretended to be someone else. And they had a whole lifestyle, parents, siblings, relatives.
And you met on the internet.
We met on the internet.
Wow.
We met and that's the thing. So to your point that people, because male and females are being very superficial and they're not focused on the intangibles. Do you think that dating now is a result of technology or it's evolved with the technology?
I think it's a little of both. I feel it's evolved with the technology because more people are, even without the whole corona thing going on, I think more people are reliant on internet dating, whether it's Black People Meet,
eHarmony,
Christian Mingle, eHarmony. More people are relying on that. And I think it's putting them in a comfort zone because a lot of, again, when we were coming up, 9 times out of 10, if you saw a woman who was attractive, you have to approach her one way or another, you know, because internet wasn't it
wasn't a thing.
Right. It wasn't a thing 20 plus years ago. Well, especially not so much with the internet dating. You had to actually go and talk. But I think now you have a lot of brothers who probably don't have that confidence, who don't think that they are easy enough on the eyes to attract the woman. So they figure, well, let me go on this app, find somebody, spit the best game I can.
Right.
And hopefully when she sees me, she'll forget about everything that I look like.
She'll forget the fake picture that I put up, the fact that I lied about the whole 12 inches of height that I don't have.
Or 12 inches of length.
All of that.
May say, hey.
All of that. Because, and that's another aspect of it that's different is the whole phenomenon of sliding in the DMs, right? Not only are you spitting game virtually, right? But you're doing it in a very kind of like covert, sneaky way, but in also a way that's vulnerable in that if you misstep or you upset the person, they now can take a screenshot of your conversation and post it on the world. Whereas, you know, when you and I were growing up, if you shot your shot and the person dismissed you,
then
you went on about your day.
Right. You just take the L and that's it.
And that's it. You try again.
Right.
But now we have people who the risk is almost greater in some sense because the risk of exposure is there and the person humiliating you on a grander scale.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's almost like there are some pros and cons to it. I don't agree with it at all because I think how you interact with people face to face is a character building skill.
Yes.
in and of itself.
Of course it is. Of
and
course.
as a woman, when a man approaches you and a brother says to you like, oh, you're looking very beautiful today. That's like, oh, okay. I was unsure about the shirt I put on and my ponytail is lopsided, but this brother said I looked all right. So it's almost like, however blasé you may be feeling as a female, for a guy to take the risk and approach you was kind of like a self-esteem boost.
Especially in this day and age too, where like people aren't used to compliments.
Well, I'm speaking in terms of like when we were growing up.
Right. But I'm just saying in contrast to now, or like even, let's say you complimented someone on the workplace. Hey, you know, that perfume smells good.
No, that's sexual harassment.
Yeah, exactly. You know, usually what I would do, I'd say, excuse me, what kind of scent is that? My sister wears that.
Right. And the crazy thing about it is, again, we live in a very metropolitan area. So we're accustomed to taking public transportation. And back in the day, that was often your means of meeting people and your main form of transportation. Even if you have a car, the cost of parking and all of that is just easier to take the train or the bus or whatever. And you and I went to like semi-public high schools. So, you know, they were testing schools or whatever.
Right.
But nonetheless, where they were located, they were in like the heart of the city.
Yes.
So like, you know, they were close to large train stations and bus stations. So we came into contact with large groups of kids our age.
Of course.
You know what I'm saying? So, and I remember dudes pulling up to the school, bumping their music outside of the school. And that was kind of like their way of peacocking.
Right. I was in my early 20s. I had a little Honda Accord, had the rims, the tints. Oh, man. And I had the system going. And so like,
you had that ponytail back, you had the braids.
Exactly. So I was good.
Honeys, Phillies.
I was good to go. But you drive by and just, even me seeing women bump their head and dance to what you're playing, you're like, all right,
I can slide in. She already with the music. Okay.
And it worked. It worked. Right. Sometimes, especially if you're at a light. And like, matter of fact, I was playing a song. It was on Busta Rhymes' song, album Genesis. Busta, what it is right now. Yeah. So I was thumping it. And chicks pull up and they're like, Busta, what it is right now. Yeah. And then conversation just started. Oh, where you going? Oh,
I'm going to go wash my car. Or I'll meet you over there. Blah, blah, blah.
But the thing is, it was easier, but it was harder because back then you, like case in point, I remember being in high school and we'd be out like at Cambridge side or wherever. And my boys would say,
that's a local mall here.
Yeah.
Which is a scene, or it used to be a scene. For young people to meet other people, be in the cafeteria or the mall, just hanging out.
We'd be there or we'd be downtown. And the thing is, back then I was so shy. So it was one of those, you're with your boys, they dare to go talk to a girl and she's, you know, they're not going to put you onto an ugly chick. They always find the nicest looking chick, figuring you didn't think you'd be able to do it. And the thing is, I'd be so shy. Like there was one time I walked up to this girl and they're on the train, they're watching me and I'm looking at them watching me. And I'm saying, hi. She said, hi. And I said, yeah, what school do you go to? I figured, all right, well, that's a conversation piece. Yeah, you can open it up like that. And she was talking and then I paused. I didn't know what else to say. And I said, so what sport do you play? And I'm saying to myself, why did I say that? So then they were a couple, they were about like 3 or 4 chairs down. And I said, all right. And I kind of awkwardly left. And they were like, what sport do you play? Ha, ha, ha. They were laughing at me. So like we would walk downtown and we'd be having conversations and they would say, oh yeah, what sport do you play again? And I'm like, all right.
Again, that's a skill set that a lot of people don't have. And not only in terms of you interacting with the opposite sex, but your homies are helping to instill character in you and they're putting you on.
And what's good about that though is I went through so much trial and error as a teenager. By the time I got into my early 20s,
it was smooth.
I mastered it because I never really had anyone to pull me aside and say, hey, this is how it works. This is what you should do. Everything was through trial and error. So you start to learn what works, what doesn't. And then also, too, you start to get to the point where you're like, you know, you don't really got to spit game. Just make conversation.
That's it. Especially
if you say, you know, good morning, how you doing? Hey, I'm all right. Even if you find something, like if you're in a grocery store. Yeah, do you know how much are these? Oh, those. Oh, I don't use those. Try these right here. Oh.
So a person tried that on me once, and because of their race, I was scared. I was like, I don't drink coffee. Bye. And it didn't dawn on me until several years later that the person was like low key hitting on me. You know what I'm saying? But because this was in the South and I'm more used to the very, I guess, forward approach of men in the North, that the subtlety of him, hey, you know, are you familiar with this coffee brand? Do you drink coffee? Like, it just, I was kind of like, I'm in the wrong aisle.
hey, at least he didn't pull a Marcus Graham and say, yo, let me borrow your leash for $20. Carbe! Oh, I'm sorry, baby. Have you seen my dog? I can't find my dog. But you know what, though? And I think when you come off like that to a woman and you're genuine, they can see it.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and I'm not a woman, but I can tell that they can see it if you're saying, really, hey, listen, do you drink this brand of coffee? I've never tried it. You know, when you're really... Right. But then they can also tell if you're just trying to just run game. And then even if they're interested, that's a turn off right there. Because
if you have Trojans and Pampers in your basket and you're asking me about coffee.
Oh, yeah.
No, thank you.
True.
But again, bringing it full course is that this is what we grew up on. You know what I'm saying? So conversation in general is easy for us. There are some situations where like I get uncomfortable sometimes in like large crowds, like big parties. I don't do too well with that. But on a whole, I don't mind talking to strangers in the grocery store.
I'm the same way.
I don't mind talking to, like, if someone speaks to me on the train, depending on what they're talking to me about, it's okay for me to respond.
Now, let me ask you this. So let's say the conversation was there, but he was hard on the eyes. Would you want to still keep the conversation going? And he was not even trying to spit game. He's literally just having a conversation. Does it depend on how he looks as to whether or not you'd continue talking to him?
My sister, myself, and my mom, we had this conversation. And it's interesting because as you get older, what you want in a mate changes. You may have a list, you know, because there should be some things that are non-negotiable for you as a person.
Of course.
You should have standards.
This is what you want and you're not going to waver from that.
Exactly. When I was younger, it used to be tall, light-skinned dudes with long hair.
Right.
That was kind of my thing.
Right.
But as you get older, the dudes don't have as much hair, but no shade. But in my previous relationship, the person was very attractive. And in hindsight, I feel as though I dated Satan that had a very handsome face. Right. You know what I'm saying? Right. And they say that the devil doesn't come to you with a demonic face, with a pitchfork. No. He's going to come to you in a way that is very appealing and enticing to you, because otherwise you wouldn't mess with it, right? You have to hide poison, right? You can't give someone a bottle of strychnine and be like, hey, yo, drink this. You have to disguise it. So for me, that
put in
was
a bottle of Ciroc, like, yo.
Yeah, you know, shake this up. Hey, don't, never mind that foam on the top. Just go ahead.
Just go ahead and drink that.
Just go ahead and drink that. So to your point about trial and error, I had to learn that just because someone looks very attractive on the outside, it's really about who they are in the inside that matters. And if someone really did approach me on some, I'm just kicking it, you know, like I think you're a cool person and I wouldn't mind including you in my circle of friends. Right. You know what I'm saying? Right. How they look wouldn't change my willingness to continue the conversation with them. It is ultimately about the approach more so than their look.
But I agree, but I also kind of disagree and it's funny because I had this conversation with women a while back and they were talking about, it's all about personality. And I agree. But if the person wasn't physically attractive, you wouldn't want to get to know their personality. So if a person came up to you and they were looking like who done it, why, and how, chances are you're not going to want to get to know them because instantly the physical attraction was not appealing to you. I mean, that's what I think, but I mean, could be wrong
you
here.
you set it up in that if someone wasn't trying to holler at you, they were just saying, hey, let's just talk. I just want to be friends.
Mm-hmm.
Then yes, I would continue that conversation. If the person looked like Quasimodo
Mm-hmm.
and they were trying to holler at me, I'd have to take a hard pause and I'd have to pray for being shallow, but I'd have to respectfully decline that request.
Right. So in other words, so the appearance does matter then.
It's a little bit of both because, and there's so many pieces to this, right? Because I have a homeboy who's in Atlanta, and shortly after he moved there, he was telling me about how he was seeing like some of the baddest chicks, like some of the best looking broads being mistreated openly by dudes that he thought were unattractive. You know what I'm saying? Like he's not gay. He's just a man saying that another dude. Of course. He's just like, yo, this brother.
He's not even good looking enough to be talking
to
like
her
that.
like this chick is bad. Like
Right.
I would never talk to a chick that looked half as decent as she does, and this brother is straight up disrespecting this woman in public. So, and to his point, there are so many attractive women in this one place, and there's nobody to date them, that they are settling for not only brothers that are, you know, less physically attractive, but they're not even treating them right. They just want to be in a relationship. They just want to be claimed. And so there are a lot of bits and pieces to that. I've seen women, and I've seen this with men too, where you look at their significant other or even, you know, their wife or their husband, and you're just like, how? Why did you?
All the time, especially when you see, you know, you see women that are really not attractive at all, and you see their husband, you're like, he's a nice looking brother. And you sit there and say, wait,
how?
Especially if they have kids. You're like, wait.
And then you see some women. I've been finding. I mean, I don't know how YouTube recommends this to me, but I keep watching it. What is disappointing to me is I'm single, and for the most part, it's my decision. But I'm also looking at what they call interabled couples. So one person may be wheelchair bound and the other person is physically sound. And I'm looking at some of these people and they have children. And I'm just like, one of them has never been able to walk. How are you able to, what is the sexual attraction? Because I can definitely understand you being attracted to the person's tenacity, their vivaciousness, their zest for life.
Spirit, their spunk,
all of that. I can see that. And especially if the person, of course, has their mental faculties and they're sharp and they're smart and all of that.
But they just are hindered by the wheelchair.
Right. Yeah. But the reason why it's not even so much like you're hindered by a wheelchair. We're talking about what's the dude on Don't Be a Menace, the dude that had the little legs and the little feet.
Oh, yeah.
Wait. No disrespect.
Yo, quick aside. My brother, you had him down to the T with his laugh. To the T, because I remember the movie came out, and back then movies would come out for free on cable like a whole year.
Yeah, you had to wait a while. Theaters, right. You had to actually wait.
So that's the first time I saw it when it came out, and we were watching it, and he had that dude's laugh down to a T. Even when he say, like one time I think he got shot. He said, "Oh, I'm dead." He said, "You ain't dead."
Feel my legs.
Cause like you never can feel your legs. Oh, that's right. Like that. Yeah, man.
So I'm not just talking about someone who may have gotten into a car accident and they lost their ability to walk or whatever, which does, happen. I'm talking about people whose limbs or their overall body is not fully functional or fully developed. How does your mind overcome that to maintain attraction? You know what I'm saying? And that's what I'm talking about in terms of there are some people who really, they don't care. You know what I'm saying? Right. They really don't care about the person's looks. They just really love that person. They really want to
be with them. That's true. Oh, by the way, we were talking about dating. Shameless plug, Opinionated Male. I wrote an article. It's called the 10 Rules or 10 Commandments of Dating. Definitely check it out. It's kind of like what to do. It's like an 099 101 class to dating women. But getting back to this part, so we're talking about the intangibles. Now, I think intangibles are important because looks are there, but
they will change and they will fade over time.
Right. And first of all, if you and I can't really get along, it's not going to work. You and I have to be able to take a road trip 5 or 6 hours in a car, just the two of us.
Right, and be good.
And be good.
Like, be upset when we get to the destination. Like, oh, I'm mad that we don't have another 5 hours ahead of us.
Right. You know, you and I have to be able, and not even so much having group dates and other couple dates, but you and I have to be able to function together. We have to like each other, want to do things together. And don't get me wrong, I like space just as much as the next person. Even though I know some dudes attached to their woman and they don't let go, but that's them. But I just feel like, can I bring you around people?
Right.
You know, can I bring you around my boys or my family, or just in a setting where I know I don't have to babysit you. I don't have to keep asking, you okay? Are you good? Now, of course, if we're going to an event, I know everybody, you don't. Of course, I'm going to make sure you're comfortable. Right. But I want to know that I'm comfortable bringing you around people. You can laugh, you can joke, you can talk, you can mingle, you can fit in.
I don't have to babysit you when I take you someplace.
And I think that gets lost with a lot of people because they're so busy looking at the superficial stuff. What's the pockets looking like? What's the body looking like? What does he have? What does he drive? Where does he live? And I say that's all cool, but if we can't do things together, then it doesn't make any sense.
And that's a very specific nuance that is lost in online dating, because that's something that you can only accomplish when you're together. You can't do that virtually.
Right.
And I think because we want relationships in this microwave society so quickly, we settle for that. We get in these long-term relationships. We engage in physical activities, which only...
It clouds things,
It clouds things. It only makes you more intertwined with the person, and it makes it all the more painful to separate when you come to the inevitable conclusion that you're not meant to be together.
Right.
Join us for another thought-provoking and intellect-stimulating episode of Illegitimate Intellectuals. It's your girl, Miss KK. Like, comment, and subscribe. And I'm out.